You're watching a 27 First News special presentation, The Valley's Hidden History.
I'm Cameron O'Brien.
And I'm Chelsea Spears. Throughout the month of February, WKBN 27 First News has been sharing stories of Black history from right here in the Valley and from across the country.
Tonight, we'll share stories of perseverance, pioneers in their industries, and the influence that African Americans had on our culture.
And we start with a story on broadcasting.
Yeah, Valley native Frankie Halfacre paved the way for Black broadcasters at home and across the country. I sat down with Frankie's close friends and family. They tell me that his impact was tremendous, both on and off the air. Madeline Halfacre tells me most people remember her dad, Frankie, by his famous phrase,
"Doing a little good in the neighborhood all the time."
But it's the saying her dad underlined on this poster that sticks with her the most. Don't quit. It's a message Frankie Halfacre took to heart as a young Black man in the white-dominated industry of broadcast radio in the 60s.
Every time he would come into the radio station, they would break the record, "I'm Black and I'm Proud," by James Brown. So he just kept getting another one and another one and another one.
That resilience pushed Halfacre to the forefront of the civil rights movement in Youngstown. He's pictured here organizing voting rallies downtown in the 60s. Halfacre's message of equality went national when he toured as an MC with James Brown. Madeline says her dad found himself walking alongside the leaders of the movement.
Where King was, my father was too, you know, sometimes, because it was like my father had a really good voice and he had this charisma, you know, to bring people together.
Halfacre's advocacy extended into the audio booth. He pioneered Youngstown's first urban radio station, WRBP 102 Jams, and filled airtime with aspiring Black broadcasters like Cynthia Boatwright.
It opened up for him to be able to really express that part of himself and to advocate for African Americans.
If Halfacre wasn't in the booth, he was out in the community. A track star himself, Halfacre mentored several young athletes like Joseph Satry, who was born with physical disabilities.
Mr. Halfacre was a coach, so I listened to everything he told me and I used that in my training, and I was always the underdog, so I was able to go really far in life.
Every night, Halfacre would end his shows with a message, one his family hopes inspires people in Youngstown for years to come.
There is a dream out there with your name on it. Go and get it.
Frankie died in 2006. Since then, his family has been dedicated to making sure that his legacy is remembered in the Valley and nationwide. Now, lots of locals know about the big role the town of Salem played in the Underground Railroad.
But one piece of hidden history lies just a few miles away. I actually got the chance to explore and uncover a big secret one Columbiana County town hid for decades.
Oh, you feel like you're stepping back in time.
Tucked away in the small village of Hanoverton is the Spread Eagle Tavern.
Just wonderful history here.
Dave Johnson owns the tavern. He took us on an in-depth tour, showing us the ins and outs of this historic place. But behind what looks like a typical pre-Civil War era building lies a big secret.
This was a town that was very sympathetic to the anti-slavery movement.
The Spread Eagle Tavern is one of several places in Hanoverton that hid slaves risking their lives for freedom.
There you see an illustration of a canal tunnel.
Hanoverton's right in the middle of what was the Sandy and Beaver Canal, which connected the Ohio River with the Ohio Erie Canal. There are stories of runaway slaves slipping across the river from what was Virginia at the time and hiding in canal boats or even using towpaths to walk to freedom. Because of its location, Hanoverton made for the perfect stop on the Underground Railroad.
You know, slaves were able to get on a canal boat and lose the track of dogs, lose the scent.
Johnson estimates hundreds, even thousands of slaves passed through Hanoverton from the 1820s all the way up to the Civil War. Many went on to Canada to gain freedom, escaping from a dangerous reality here in the States.
These bounty hunters, you know, were vicious people, and they were tracking them down and would do anything to bring them back to, you know, to the South.
To hide their secret, the Underground Railroad conductors built hidden rooms.
Let's go down into the Rathskeller.
Down a flight of stairs in the basement cellar, we got a peek. Right now, we're in a dimly lit room. This is a mock tunnel similar to what the slaves would use back in the day. They would hide by day and run by night in rooms similar to this. You can see it's pretty small, but this is what daily life was like for them back in the 1800s.
There is a tunnel very much like this in one of the houses next door. It connected two homes underneath the street.
And the bounty hunters would have never known they were here.
And they would have never known they were here.
This is Plymouth Street in Hanoverton, where pretty much every building you see here is somehow connected to the Underground Railroad.
This house was really one of the key homes on the Underground Railroad.
This home just down the road had a smokehouse. When bounty hunters came to town, slaves would hide in a room underneath. Then the owners would start a fire so no one could find them.
This itself is a shrine to the Underground Railroad movement.
Just around the corner, another house with a hidden room upstairs. The only way in, a ladder used to crawl through a second-story window.
You could fit probably, I don't know, 10, 12 people in that room.
Just a small street in a small town, playing a big part in getting Americans the freedom they so rightly deserved.
We have such rich history here, but if we don't tell the stories and have places like this to tell the story, much of it gets forgotten.
Chelsea, that was so incredibly interesting.
It was really fun going on the tour myself, and actually Dave Johnson, who you heard from there, he'll actually take you on a mini tour yourself if you want to go to the Spread Eagle Tavern in Hanoverton.
Well, I definitely want to go, so I'll have to take him up on that offer.
Yeah, you should.
For sure. Now, a group of leaders in the black community have come together with a goal, shaping and improving the lives of young black men in the Valley.
Now, the group includes a former football star, a councilman, someone from the entertainment industry, among others. Coming up, 27 First News anchor Stan Boney is introducing us to the leaders of the new.
Plus, a later look at how black musicians navigated segregation in the Valley and why the signs that said whites only were often ignored in clubs.
Get local weather on your phone with the Storm Team 27 app.
Howdy, I'm Charlie Staples.
I'm Mars Staples.
I'm Shan Staples.
I just want you folks to come down and enjoy the Charlie Staples experience.
Experience our famous barbecue ribs and chicken, full-service carry-out and sports bar.
Experience our unique full-service dining room and ask your grocery stores for your bottle of Charlie Staples barbecue sauce. In other words,
Couple love. Like I said, Charlie Staples Barbecue is more than just a restaurant. It's an experience.
KeyBank invites you to take the first step toward financial wellness by saving money with the hassle-free account. It has no overdraft fees, no monthly service charges, no minimum balance fees. That's how financial wellness starts. One little step when you use the red key to help you focus on what's important. So take that first step. Come to KeyBank. We'll help you save money and get you on the path to thriving. KeyBank. Use the red key.
I hurt myself at work when I was a policeman. It was just nothing that was helping me. And I was really getting depressed. And you're at the end of your rope and you're really trying to find something to help you get through the pain and the miserable feeling from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. It's horrifying. I just kept saying I got a monster in my body and it just won't leave me. Dr. Tripp took that monster out of there. He took it away. And actually, truly, he saved my life.
Watch every night at 10 on Fox Youngstown. You're watching a 27 First News special presentation, The Valley's Hidden History.
A new group has been formed of young black men in Youngstown. Their purpose is to teach the city's black children how to succeed.
They grew up on the streets. Some have been in prison. Their goal is to convince kids that there are other options in Youngstown.
Here's First News anchor Stan Boney with the leaders of the new.
On a January afternoon at the Federal Restaurant in downtown Youngstown, I sat with 5 men, ages 30 to 37, who still call Youngstown home.
So I always loved music. I played the drums in church. I grew up on the south side of Youngstown.
You see something that needs to be done and you just do it.
Each one of us made mistakes. Each one of us.
When there's a commonality between everybody, common sense is say, hey, let's get together and do something.
Former football star Maurice Clarett is the most recognizable name in this group, which calls itself Leaders of the New. Clarett also runs the Red Zone, which specializes in addiction and mental health. Keelan Logan runs The Colony, focused on building the community. Brandon Perry runs City Kids Care. Charles Colvin has a music and entertainment company. And Julius Oliver is a city councilman.
It's a group of young men that got together in order to affect change in the neighborhood.
Because in Youngstown, we never seen black men come together. The whole thing is black men always doing something to harm each other or anything like that. So we just want to bring a group of leaders together and start something.
The focus of Leaders of the New is the city as a whole, but especially the kids.
I think just being black, when you're honest with yourself, the only way you make a change for is if you like really attack the youth. Once you're an adult, I think that your mind, for the most part, is kind of set on how you view the world.
We're trying to give these next generation kids a platform to say, you can affect this city. So the youth activity that you grew up in as a kid that was wrong, for the next generation, you could turn that totally around and be the change in Youngstown.
Leaders of the New has been around about a year.
Social media makes it easier when you can kind of see what guys have going on. Common sense to say, hey, let's get together and do something. And then I think organically everybody just kind of came together.
Once everyone saw what everyone else was doing, it was just a matter of linking up. And Julius Oliver drove them there.
Everybody was doing such grand things on their own. So he would always say, like, imagine what we can do if we work together, and that's how it kind of happened. It was a group text. It was all done through a group text.
Their first big event was last winter, an overnighter for city kids at the YMCA.
We had over 800 kids come out, but only 250 was allowed in. So we had a good problem, but it was a problem.
They found a place for everyone and then realized the effect they could have on kids. In August, they gave away 800 bikes. In December, 3,000 coats. And they organized 100 men who showed up and supported the students as they walked into the Youngstown City Schools on the first day. The men of Leaders of the New also support Chris Mohip's plan to change the schools and wish the school board would move past fighting House Bill 70 and instead use those efforts to help the kids.
If it's going to impact the community in a positive way, then you grab it with both hands and do all that you can.
We were really able to engage with the youth because we're from the same neighborhoods, we're from the same streets.
The group has no president. There's no board of directors, no charter, no real form of organization. Maurice Claret says for it to move forward, that may have to change.
We started something that's cool, but how can you organize these efforts and strategically over a period of time make these things last? And I think that we can do a better job of that.
If it's something that needs to be get done and the community wants it done, we can facilitate and try to come in and move the parts to get things done.
For Hidden History, Stan Boney, WKBN 27 First News.
Now, you just met Maurice Claret in Stan's piece. Later, we're going in-depth with Claret as he talks sports, prison, and how he works today to keep young people from making his mistake.
But first, an inside look at what it was like to be a black police officer in Youngstown during the 1970s and how it shapes policing today. You'll meet two pioneering officers who faced racism and another hurdle for acceptance in their job.
The Valley's rock station is 93.3 The Wolf.
When it comes to getting the best services for your home, it's important to have all the facts.
Myth, all TV providers are the same.
Fact, Spectrum TV gives you more free HD, free primetime on demand, and the Spectrum TV app, so you can watch live TV on any device in your home for $29.99 a month. Call 844-578-2999.
Myth, with internet, there's always a catch.
Spectrum has the fastest internet starting speeds for the price, 100 megabits, with no modem fees or data caps for $29.99 a month. Plus, Spectrum Voice gives you unlimited calling in the U.S., Mexico, Puerto Rico, and more for $29.99 a month. Call 844-578-2999.
Myth, getting the best price means signing a contract.
With Spectrum, there are no contracts and no termination fees. The fact is, Spectrum gives you the best services at the best value. Get Spectrum TV, internet, and voice for $29.99 a month each. Call 844-578-2999.
KeyBank invites you to take the first step toward financial wellness by saving money with the hassle-free account. It has no overdraft fees, no monthly service charges, no minimum balance fees. That's how financial wellness starts. One little step when you use the red key to help you focus on what's important. So take that first step. Come to KeyBank. We'll help you save money and get you on the path to thriving. KeyBank. Use the red key.
You're watching a 27 First News special presentation, The Valley's Hidden History.
The achievements of African Americans have made a tremendous impact on the Valley, Youngstown included.
Youngstown's police department has been shaped by the selflessness and innovation of several black officers. I sat down with the department's first black police chief and one of the first black women in the department to achieve the rank of detective sergeant. They tell me what it was like to navigate issues of race and gender during their first tenure with the department. Several black officers worked for the Youngstown Police Department in the 1970s, but they weren't welcomed by everyone on the force.
You would walk into the elevator and literally they would just turn their back on you. They would actually face the wall.
So Robert Bush and other black officers in the department founded the Black Knights Police Association. It was their way of fighting racism on the job.
Study, get promoted, start pressing for things like more police officers, minorities on the job.
The Black Knights recruited Delphine Baldwin Casey to the department in 1978. She tells me being black on the force was hard, but being female was harder. Male officers tested her limits.
Homicides and gory scenes that I saw in my first year that you would have to be on the job actually 5 years to see.
Toxic attitudes towards women in the department and the community upset Baldwin Casey. She created the Family Services Investigation Unit. They dealt with domestic violence.
We got a call and the man said he beat his wife because she spent too much money. My partner would say, well, I agree. I would have done the same thing. And so my fight was, now I have to protect them from being abused by the judicial system, starting with the police.
In 2004, the department had another first, a black chief. It's the last part of that title that Robert Bush wore most proudly.
I never took the position of being the black chief. I had to take the position of being a chief of the department.
Baldwin Casey hopes all young officers take time to learn about the department's past so that Youngstown can continue to move forward.
If you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Detective Sergeant Baldwin Casey and Chief Bush say there's still progress to be made in the department. Youngstown has never seen a black female chief or a high-ranking commanding officer, and they hope that that changes in the coming years. Now, Valley football fans will remember the name Maurice Clarett. He helped Ohio State win a national championship, but later ended up behind bars.
And Cam, next we go in depth with Clarett on how he hopes his new group, the Red Zone, will help Valley kids.
Why wait for your news? Watch WKBN 27 First News at 10.
You have arrived. You've worked hard to get here. And Toyota Highlander rewards your efforts with the power to move you, the luxury and convenience you want. Plus, Toyota Safety Sense, the most advanced safety features you need to protect your precious cargo. Toyota Highlander, it's the vehicle you deserve. For all Toyota offers, including Highlander, go to buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
Behind on your bills and think debt consolidation is the answer? For many, it's more the same, paying debts you just can't afford. Bankruptcy can help. Unlike debt consolidation, Chapter 13 bankruptcy forces creditors to accept only what you're able to pay, which can be a fraction of what you owe. No ability to repay? Chapter 7 bankruptcy may allow you to eliminate all of your debt. The bankruptcy laws were designed to help you recover financially. Call 1-888-8HELP-US for your free consultation.
Every morning, WKBN works harder for you.
Keeping an eye on road conditions.
Winds are whipping this morning.
Getting you ready for the day.
New from overnight.
Reporting major local news. Watch WKBN 27 First News this morning.
Get out. You're walking home. The house is right there. Okay, stay in. I'm going to drive you further away.
Mom, weekdays at 5:30 on Fox Youngstown. Watch every night at 10 on Fox Youngstown. You're watching a 27 First News special presentation, The Valley's Hidden History.
As we celebrate Black History Month through WKBN's Hidden History Project, we introduce you to a local role model trying to use his past to help future generations.
From national champion to convicted felon and back to community activist, Maurice Clarett has been through it all. Now the Warren Harding grad is hoping lessons from his life will help the Valley's youth. Sports Team 27's Ryan Allison is in the newsroom with Clarett's story.
Well, it was a court-mandated mental health evaluation that started Clarett's road to recovery years ago. Now he's hoping to help bridge the gap between therapists and the inner city youth that share in his struggle. So 2 years ago, he started the Red Zone, which has not only helped with the treatment process, but also donated thousands of socks and bikes and coats to those in need. It's this community outreach that has become his passion.
I'm not a Republican, a Democrat, or nothing, none of that stuff. I don't even care about it. I want to help people. Like, what do we represent? I'm with anybody who wants to help. How about that?
At 34 years old, Maurice Clarett is still striving to be the best. On the high school football field, he was the best.
Just to give it context, when I was playing football, in my mind, I thought I was a gangster playing football. In my mind, I had like a gangster mentality, like I was like still like in the street mentality playing football.
And while that mentality served him well on the field, it also led to his troubles off of it. Clarett struggled with both mental health issues and drug and alcohol abuse.
You know, that's my life. You know, I woke up at some point, and it's not to say that I'm doing everything perfect, but I just quit making excuses for myself. Like, okay, you bombed out because you're irresponsible. You bombed out of college because you weren't doing what you were supposed to be doing. You bombed out of the NFL because you just weren't a professional. Like, just hard truths with yourself. And so, you know, the story of my life is that I was able to give myself hard truths, deal with them, and work on them. They're going to put us all in a box one day. Everybody. We're going to be done in a box. Like, it sounds cliche, but like, what did you do for other people? That's it. That's life. That's my story. When they put me in the ground, they said, okay, you know, whatever happened with that guy's situation, like, you know, he was able to say, you know what, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? That's, throw an interception, national championship game. It don't matter. Get the ball back. Where I'm coming from.
And Clarett is stole the ball. Yes, he did, Keith. Maurice Clarett with the play of the game.
It's life. That's like, that play probably signifies my life. Made a mistake, all right, cool, we gotta get the ball back. We still had a game to win. Went to jail, went to prison, all right, cool. Like, that happened, all right, get your life back together. You got a game to win, got a family to lead. How you pushing yourself? Do you really believe you're great, period? Do you believe it? I believe it. I've been believing it. You know what I'm saying? And am I doing it for the right reason? If you're doing it for the right reasons, God gonna deliver people in your life who help you out.
And the Red Zone is certainly working. Clarett says without government funding, he's already built a company with well over 100 employees and has tripled the amount of social work and mental health support in the Youngstown City schools, saving the district already in excess of $1 million.
From soul to jazz to classical, music speaks when African Americans can't.
Next, the outstanding talent and music that broke through racial barriers right here in Youngstown, and how almost a century later, that tradition continues.
Get local weather on your phone with the Storm Team 27 app.
KeyBank invites you to take the first step toward financial wellness by saving money with the hassle-free account. It has no overdraft fees, no monthly service charges, no minimum balance fees. That's how financial wellness starts. One little step when you use the red key to help you focus on what's important. So take that first step. Come to KeyBank. We'll help you save money and get you on the path to thriving. KeyBank. Use the red key.
Experience the taste of Italy with this incredible deal from Donna Vito's Restaurant and Catering Company in Struthers. A local favorite, Donna Vito's features delicious food in a warm atmosphere. Enjoy the mouth-watering pasta, steaks, burgers, seafood, salads, and so much more. Get this tasty deal available now with no fees at myvalleydeals.com. We have something for everyone. Amazing half-off deals. Sign up now for email notifications and start saving. They're a pain, an eyesore,
and a threat to your community. Monday morning at 6. What's a zombie home? 27 investigates the impact of these homes and how neighbors are fighting against them. Then Tuesday, bridges all over the valley falling apart.
You can't get our school buses across it. Our plow trucks can't cross it.
The cost and the reason some say the government is taking the wrong road. 27 investigates Tuesday night at 6 on 27 First News. You're watching a 27 First News special presentation, The Valley's Hidden History.
Black musicians have long expressed emotions felt by their community, but during segregation, Youngstown's nightclubs actually followed the strict rules of separating races.
First News reporter Tyler Trill discovered those rules were ignored in whites-only clubs because of the talent of black musicians. And Youngstown attracted some legendary talent.
It's a Saturday night at Powers Auditorium in downtown Youngstown, and the Youngstown Symphony Orchestra dedicated the night to the First Lady of Song, or Ella Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald has a Youngstown connection. She got married in Mahoning County in 1947. Fitzgerald also spent time performing in the area. All the greats did. Youngstown jazz history professor Ken Engelhart says Youngstown was an easy stop for musicians of the 30s, 40s, and 50s to make.
So maybe they were coming from New York to Pittsburgh or Philadelphia to Pittsburgh, and then on the way to Cleveland, there would be a stop here. Sometimes a weekend gig, sometimes a whole week.
Rick Shale's book, Idora Park, The Last Ride of Summer, shows a photo of a Cab Calloway ticket from the 1930s. Only 99 cents to get in. Charlie Parker, one of the greatest saxophone players of all time, played in Youngstown in 1955.
What's going on with Charlie Parker?
Shedrick Hobbs could tell you all about it. Parker picked Hobbs to play drums with him during his stop.
You'd be a nervous wreck because, for one thing, you think you're going to mess up.
Many people consider Hobbs to be one of the best musicians in the area during that time, though he'd never admit it.
I still don't think I was that great. Everybody else did.
Hobbs says he would play at local clubs 6 nights a week in the 50s. Segregation still existed, and for some black musicians, music may have been the only interaction they had with white people.
Everybody was playing. Clubs was all over the place. Only one difference is, only way a black band would could go to a white club is unless he was playing there. Other than that, you wasn't allowed in there.
Jeff Green was meant to perform. He was born into a family of musicians, and Green has seen the impact jazz has on people. His brother and sister-in-law started Jazz in the Park in the 90s, a concert series that began to help curb the city's murder rate. And it still goes on today.
The people liked it so much that they just responded so much that we started doing it. We'd go like 4 weeks out the month, and now I just took it last year to 10 weeks.
So whether it's Jazz in the Park, stories told through old photos, or a Youngstown Symphony Orchestra performance, the sounds of post-World War II America can still be heard today. For Hidden History, I'm Tyler Trill.
The proud tradition of black musicians from the Valley continues today.
One of them is Dana Christina Joy Morgan. She's a classical pianist from Warren who performs nationwide. Morgan gives many concerts around the Washington, D.C. area, but our cameras were there when she came home and treated a local audience to a performance in 2016. Morgan did that in support of YSU's annual Diversity Leadership Banquet. That's our special look at the Valley's hidden history. You can see all of these stories and many more from across the United States on our website, WKBN.com.
And on behalf of the entire team here at WKBN 27, we appreciate the time you spent with us as we honor Black History Month.